Alright, hello everybody. I'm doing this a second time because the first time the audio messed up. But I am going to be teaching you guys how to set up 3dsMax for Empire at War and also AotR, I guess. This is AotR specific. But I guess if you're doing a different mod, same thing applies. So I'm doing this on a Windows 10 machine. So I haven't done this yet on a Windows 10 machine. I don't know if this actually works or not, so we'll figure it out together. I know this works on Windows 7 and obviously XP, but who has XP anymore? Um, so yeah, hopefully I'm just doing this. It's going to be kind of dirty, unedited, but we'll just run through how we're doing this. One sec. And then hopefully we do this video once and I could just, you know, whoever wants to take up modeling for Empire at War, you can reference this video and I won't have to um, explain myself like 30 times. um, so yeah, first things first, this is very specific to AOTR, but our server branch has mod resources on it, mod tools, and then we have this 3dsMax 9 zipped and this ALO importer. I don't know if we need this. We also have Max to Alamo. I think it's all in here already, but we'll see. So I guess the first thing you want to do is extract this thing. Don't upload the extracted stuff to the server, please. So I'm gonna do it in here, but just don't ever upload this because there's no point. So I'm just gonna do that. Get us an unpacked version of this. So if we go into here, we're gonna have install max 9. Right. So this install max 9 folder has all of the supporting stuff that we need. Even has our shaders. I'm pretty sure these are outdated though. And then a second install max 9. Okay, I need to clean this up. And then we have the service packs 1 and 2. We have the 3DS9, and then of course we have the keygen, and the keygen will essentially just validate your 3dsMax copy. There's no legal way to get 3dsMax 9 anymore, so I know the keygen seems like a not legal thing to do, but sadly this is the only way, so I don't care, and nobody should either. So let's see. The first thing we want to do is, I guess, install 3dsMax 9 and get the keygen running. So we will. I don't like this. Why is this a trial? Oh, this is just to unzip it. Interesting. I don't remember doing this, but okay. I would rather you not go here. Well, actually, let's just see what this does first. So let's just do desktop 3dsMax 9. I don't know, we'll figure out what this is. I think it's let's see what is contained in here. I don't think this is the whole installation. I'm pretty sure there's more to this. So I think this is just extracting the setup, but let's see. No. Oh, setup. Alright, so we run setup. Yeah, and this is what you should get. This is what I was looking for. So extract that somewhere, and because it's going to need all these folders to run the set. This is like, I guess, a packed version of if you got it on the CD. So you got to unpack it, and then we got to install it. I think we can safely delete this folder once we install everything. So let's install. through the I accept the bullshit that doesn't matter anymore. You don't need to do any of this. Program files, AotR 3dsMax 9. Yeah, leave it there because I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of other random shit that will need it to be there. Just next all the way through this damn thing. It doesn't matter. We're not going to be using any of that other stuff. Oh, there we go. Alright, so it does lag. So just... I'm going to restart later. No, I really don't want to cut this video in half. So we'll just sit on this. I think the service packs have to be done first before we do any of this other stuff too. So let's get to that. So inside of this install Max 9 folder, you're going to have an SP1, Service Pack 1. You're going to have a Service Pack 2. We're going to need both of those installed. So let's get to it, otherwise it won't run. And these are pretty straightforward. You just kind of go through, and just run it. There we go. So now we should be able to start up 3dsMax. And it's going to ask you to activate the product. And this is where the nice little keygen is going to come in handy. So you open up the keygen, you take the request code that's in here, and there's a funny, tricky part here. If you're just going to Control C, Control V, it's only going to do the first line, but you need both lines. So just make sure that happens. And it's going to generate an auth code. You select enter an activation code. You go next. And shit, I forget what. I think you just type in all zeros here. You do United States, whatever, paste. Make sure it has everything in there. New serial number. Oops. No, it's not responding. There's like a very specific set of steps you got to do here. If you don't let it, I think there was like you did ones. Oh, it might have been just ones all across. I don't think it matters. Yeah, so just do ones all across. And then your request code and activation and finish. We're done, and you never have to use this again. And Service Pack 2 is ready to go. Now for the, let's start it up and make sure it runs. Okay, I didn't know you need that, but apparently you need direct play. So just install that. And I guess if you're new to Autodesk, I guess this tutorial can help you. If you don't want it, like me, just close, uncheck and close. Here's your 3dsMax. Now, this is great. You can model, but you can't interact with Empire War stuff. So we're going to shut 3dsMax down now that we know that it works. And we're going to go to our ALO exporter tool. We're going to go to I think it's EaW, because it uses Universal War. You need one specific to the version. So we run 3dsMax 9. So we're going to take this, copy that, and then we're going to find our installation for 3dsMax, which should be program files, Autodesk 3dsMax 9. I would also recommend taking this and pinning it somewhere, because you're going to end up going here a couple of times when we have to update our shaders and our textures, if we ever do need to. So you want to find the maps folder, then you want to find, oh wait, sorry, not map, we're not there yet. We want to find plugins folder. Oh, I forget which ones go where. Oh, well, here's a README. So copy the the Max2 Alamo DLE is placed in the plugins folder. There we go. So exporter, EaW 3dsMax 9 Max2 Alamo DLE. You take this, you copy it, you paste it in plugins. Done. Continue. Cool, we're done there. Now, the Alamo 2 Max DLU file which is in the ALO importer section, 3dsMax 9 DLU. You copy this and you put it in, in the same folder, plugins. There we go. So DLU and DLE go in there. Or sorry. Yeah, plugins folder, DLU goes in the plugins folder. And then the MS file, which is this guy right here, this Alamo 2 Max, copy this and place it in the scripts folder. So we go and we find scripts. I don't think you want it on startup. I think you just want it in here. There was, 3dsMax will crash if you put it in. It's either you put it in startup or you put it in out here. We'll find out when we launch it. And then I guess we start 3dsMax again. Make sure this takes. And then there's this like thing you gotta set up in the preferences to make sure that your 3dsMax doesn't crash when it exports. So we're gonna go, first we're gonna check if we got it. Oh right, we need to add it to utilities. I forget how you do that too. More. Okay, so if you go, let's do this again because I didn't, if you might have missed what I just did. So when you open up 3dsMax, you have this little utilities window here, this little hammer. You click on the hammer. Then you go, you have this utilities list. The best thing to do is to hit more, and you have your utility and your importer. So we're going to hit utility OK. Then we're going to go more again. Then we're going to do importer OK. Oh, sorry. Shoot, that's right. It doesn't actually add it. I forget how you actually do this again. I should have done like a trial run first, then deleted everything, then done it again, but oh well. Like I said, we're figuring this out together. I see. So you have to add 11 total buttons here. So once again, we go to sets, we go to this little guy right here, and then we add 2 more slots to our total buttons. We scroll down, we'll see 2 empty buttons here. You click here and you can drag it, put importer here, drag it, put utility here. Save this set. First we just, I guess we do EaW, and then we save. And hit OK. And then now we should have them here so that you don't have to go to more every single time you do this stuff. So your Alamo utility is kind of like, you're going to use this to kind of add additional flags and stuff for Alamo specific objects. I probably will go through what all these things do at a later date. You got your animator, level of detail, um, making like quick selection. It, it's yeah, there's a bunch, and then here's all your options for um, making sure that stuff goes into the EaW engine properly. Collision, hiding something, exporting the geometry, and then alt decorations stay hidden. And we'll go through all this maybe in another video. Next thing I want to do is get to this Alamo importer, but it's not letting me. It might have to be in the startup folder now that I think about it, but let's restart 3dsMax. Start it back up again. Yeah, it might need to be in startup. Anyways, let's do this last little thing here. Customize preferences. And we're going to go to Max Script tab. Then we're going to go to initial heap allocation 150. Okay. I find it very weird that it won't let me go to the Alamo importer. Oh, right. So the right. So you don't actually click on. Gosh, it's been a while since I've done this. You don't actually need the Alamo importer in here. So if you want, you can just get rid of this and lower this down to 10 and fix all this because yeah, rip. Okay, we don't actually need that. What the way you access it is you go to Max Script, and then you got your. Oh, it's not in here. New script? No. Open script. Alamo 2 Max, open. No, that's just opening it. Run script. Alamo 2 Max, open. Yes. And then you click it. There we go. Now we got Alamo importer in here. So you got to run script, run that script file, and then it'll show up in your utilities. And now we have to set up our Alamo object importer. What this requires you to do is whenever you're working on a model and a specific mod, you need to make sure that the shaders match your mod and that the texture paths match your mod. If you import a model and you don't have the proper textures and the proper shaders, then it will break on import and it'll look weird and funky and then you will cry. Essentially, this always needs to match the mod you're working on. If you're trying to import, let's say, a model that is not in your mod yet, and you want to start working on a model before you get into your mod, you will have to add a new texture path to support that model. And if that model has any custom shaders, like for example AotR has a couple shaders, Rise of the Mandalorians has a couple extra shaders. If you import models from any of other mods and they have custom shaders on them, you have to include them in the shader paths. And the good thing is you can import multiple. So you don't just have to have one path, you can have multiple stacking and then you can remove them as needed. But for now, let's just add, we're going to go back here and I have an AotR folder in here for our AotR people. But to be honest, yeah, I guess we could just use this. I think everything should be in here. You also need all the Empire at War specific FX files. So you don't just need the mod ones, you need all of Empire at War's FX files. And that is done by extracting the shaders.meg file, which I don't feel like getting into today for the purposes of this video. We have it ready for us. So essentially you want to take this FX folder and copy it, and this needs to be, you cannot just link shaders outside of your 3dsMax directory. 3dsMax needs to know about these shit. This is the #1 thing that isn't talked about. You go into your 3dsMax 9 directory, maps and FX. And in here, there's going to be a bunch of other stuff. And you're going to take your FX folder, the one that I've generated here. You're going to copy that. You're going to go to maps, and you're going to paste over FX. And you're going to merge them or replace files. Yeah, just go for it. So they need to be in here. If they're not in here, Max will not recognize them, and then it'll error on an import. So now once they're in here, you can add a plus, and we go find our 3dsMax directory again, Autodesk, Max, Maps, FX, and just use that as your shader path. If you have any shaders that are outside of this mod that you're working on, you have to go in and add them into this FX folder. Otherwise, Max will not recognize them. Textures, on the other hand, can be loaded from anywhere. So ideally, if you're working on a specific version of the mod, for us AotR people, if you've set up your Perforce server correctly, you can go and let's just go and find our installation for the mod that we're working on, our dev branch. I have mine mapped to, the game directory itself, which you guys should do. And there's a Google Drive tutorial on how to do that. And you go into here, you go into art, and you find your textures, and you load that in. So now let's give this a test run. Everything should be set up. Let's pray to God this works. So we're going to find an ALO object. So let's go. The simplest way to do this is to go into your recent item. There's no pins here, so the easiest way to do it is to navigate there once and find in your recent items, corruption, mods, development, data, art, models, and then here's all the ALO files that we could possibly load. I want to load, let's see, let's load the VSD1. Open. Oh, there we go. Nice. So you just have to be patient. The UI doesn't update, but it'll eventually get there. Alright, so there we go. We have our Victory Star Destroyer loaded in 3dsMax. There's a bunch of components here. I guess I could give you guys a quick rundown of what's going on. All these little arrows are Alamo proxies, and those are specific objects in 3dsMax that you will need to use, and they are found under... Oh man, where do you find them under? Should be right here somewhere on one of these. Cameras, helpers, space warps, helpers. Alamo Dazzle. Alamo Proxy. So these two, I forget what Dazzle is. I think it's like a like some sort of light specific camera. I think it's used on the Skybox or something like that. I've never used Dazzle in my life, so I don't know what it is. Most of the stuff is always proxies. These are the little, this is how you connect essentially firebones, fires, turrets, everything is done with an Alamo proxy. So as you can see here, if you go into this little hammer, you'll have a little bit more knowledge, or you go, well, really anywhere. I go to the hammer because if you click on Alamo Utility, you have all the extra options for what an Alamo proxy is. So As you can see here, this guy, and Alamo proxies are used for tons of things. Particle spawning, alt damage, um, engine glows, the turrets and the bones themselves. So really it's up to these options to determine what you're doing with them. As you can see also, the Victory Star Destroyer has 2 animations open already. So as you can see, like, we're already loaded in, and you can see we can open and close the wings. Whee! Isn't that cool? So yeah, so this, for example, this guy up here is P-Blink white, and you have to match, essentially, you find the name of your particle if you want to spawn a particle, and you name it exactly the name of the particle. And then it'll load that particle in. P-Fire medium, for example, that's like flames. Gosh, there's so much to go over here. I don't even know if I can go through like how to work on a model in one video. But essentially, you've got all these arrows, and these are all the specific stuff. Now, the standard 3dsMax tools are up here, so you've got your select and move, your move and rotate, and then your scale. So if you want to, for example, rotate the direction a fire comes out, you just kind of rotate it. And there you go. Also, I am moving with the middle mouse button, and I'm scrolling with the scroll wheel. And then, as far as rotation goes, I think it's Alt. You hold down Alt and the middle mouse button by default. So that should get you through most of the things. Now, this blue thing is a collision mesh, essentially, and you don't have to name it collision, but the way that the engine determines what is a collision mesh and what is not is based on a shader applied to the mesh and a couple options in this Alamo utility. So you can see you have the enable collision box checked, and then you have hidden checked so that this actual blue mesh doesn't actually show up. You do have to have export geometry checked, and then yeah, that's how your collision works. The other thing is the shadow meshes. Now the shadow meshes are a pain in the ass. If you load a model with a shadow mesh in, there's a couple other things that you have to account for when you want to export it. Also, let me show you something that I really find useful. Under graph editors, if you go and open new schematic view, you will get a nice little graph representation of all the objects in your scene, and also the parent-child hierarchies. So for example, everything under wing RU, these 2 blinks are parented, so that if you move wing RU, like for example I'm about to, I move, let's get in for a nicer angle here, I move RU, and the 2 Alamo proxies are going to move with it. See? So that's child-parent relationships. And I highly recommend, for the ease of your life, to do as many parent-child relationships as possible, because then if you move something, all the things that support it move with it. And this graph editor honestly is the best way of finding and selecting objects. So right now I need to show you guys the shadow mesh, so we're going to go and try and find it. I forget if you can just search or not in here. You might not be able to. So as you can see, the Victory Star Destroyer is a complicated model, but you got all our shadows here. They don't need to be named shadow, they just are for simplicity's sake. However, if you want to go back and export this and not get those stupid shadow geometry warnings, when you import a model, any shadow, you have to go up here to modify, and then you click the shadow, and then you have to change editable mesh, right click on editable mesh and select it to editable poly. And you have to do this for every shadow mesh that's on the model, because if you do not do this, your object will not export and you will get shadow mesh tears. So we got to go through before exporting and make sure all of these guys are set to editable polys. And sometimes you might miss some, and then it's annoying to try and track down where all these things are. So I would also suggest to group all your shadow meshes under as little objects as possible, or as little directories as possible. Okay. Like for example here there's a shadow bone, so to be honest I would have just stuck all these guys under the shadow bone, but this ain't my model, so we're going to be going through and probably editing this model anyways later, so maybe I might run through all the changes I will do. And yeah, that is about it. So now if we want to take our changes, let's say we change something and export it back, we have to go back to Max Script. Or sorry, this is we don't need to touch Max Script anymore. We go to File, Export, and then we do, let's just put it on desktop for now. I want to go down here and you want to make sure it's set to Alamo object as a file type, and then we're going to do EV VSD 1 or whatever, right? And then we're going to save, and then hopefully all the shadow meshes have been properly, nope, so I missed one, and it's going to error for every single one I missed. So I missed 3 somewhere, but that's okay. And now we're going to go see if it took, because I don't really care if the shadow meshes have problems. Let's see if we can open it. So we're going to go once again to Mod Resources, Mod Tools, find your ALO viewer, and then we are going to make sure that the game is set up to AotR development. Close ALO for that to take and reopen it, and now you should, oh, I guess not, it didn't take. Interesting. Alright, well, let's just try it anyways. So we're going to open a model. Go to desktop and see if we can look at this guy. There it is. I know the shadow meshes are broken, as you can see. Wonderful. Shadow mesh broken. But that's okay. It's in the engine, and we just did it. And animations work, and everything works, and Windows 10 is perfectly fine for doing this. So we are Gucci. That is setting up 3dsMax for Empire at War, and I guess more specifically AotR. Hopefully this wasn't too boring. I know it's probably going to be a long video. I'll try and edit it down. But once you have this set up, man, and you learn 3dsMax, there's nothing in Empire at War you cannot do. Like, obviously, actual modeling and texturing skills excluded. If you need to edit models, re-rig models, add fire bones, add effects, add, just change collision meshes, all this other supporting stuff, very simple. It's literally just moving and adding objects, renaming objects, checking boxes, and exporting and importing. So yeah, that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed. I will probably make a follow-up video whenever I get the chance to talk more about general practices and the processes for actually, like, making a unit Empire at War ready, rigging, animating, setting up all the particles, setting up, all the different weird stuff that you need to set up for a model to work. And then also some AotR specific stuff and some best practices, because I, as you have noticed, have a certain workflow that I do using the schematic view, using specific ways of parenting and child relationships, and also there's a way to make sure that instead of always having to import and export models, there's a way to set up 3dsMax on different computers so that we could just save the 3dsMax file. That way we never have to import models once they've been imported once, because as you can see, there's a lot of setup that goes in. You have to make sure all the shadow meshes are ready. You have to make sure all this other crap is ready before you can even save it back out into an Alamo format. So if we can keep all of our files in 3dsMax format and share those and only export, it'll be a lot easier. But since we're not all on the same page yet with models and how it works, and there's also Blender now, which I need to learn as well because I haven't had the chance to learn at Blender. Yeah, well, this will get a lot more streamlined. But yeah, epic rant towards the end of the video. If you've watched this far, I commend you for giving a shit about such a niche topic. So thank you, and have a good one.